Challenge Cup at Gateshead, and thinking then that we probably had a player on our hands, and I'm delighted to say that's not. He's not disappointed us in that. He's been a super player for Saints, and I'm glad he's signed on for a few more years. Let's hope he stays fit and healthy, and his knees are all better now.
I think
it seems to be working okay.
I think he's fine now, isn't he? I think the whole sort of injury knock, 111 tries he scored. The whole injury knock on him, I think, is from the past, isn't it? From the sort of early, the early period of his career when he never really got going because of injuries, and he missed the 2014 campaign, didn't he? Periods of that and those kind of spells. But ever since he was put into the standoff position, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, rather than kind of mix and matching between 1 and 6, I think he's really been able to blossom and been consistent, and he's been fit. He has played regularly for the last 4 years, so I don't have any injury concerns over him anymore. And he's a fantastic player who, for me, really does need to show it for England, because if he plays as well for England as he plays for St Helens, England are a better side. Yeah,
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Need to find a way of getting him to play in the same way that he does for his club. He's not the only player that, either in rugby or football, that has that sort of reputation of, doing something for his club that he's not done yet for the international side. So let's hope that comes right.
But he's suffered a bit from that being moved between fullback and standoff situation for England, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah, he has. He has. And and in fact, England have suffered from that, with not really having settled positions for Johnny, for Widdop, for Hardacre, and hopefully Wayne will get that right, because I think if we do, we've got some really talented players who can help that side to be very competitive. But sorry, I miss saying Tom Andrews had sent us a view on this as well. Saints keeping all the right players. Another one I'm glad is staying in Super League.
Yep. Good stuff. Right, let's do a few quicker stories, but one last Super League story within that is Catalans have given a full-time deal to French forward Jordan Desaria. The 24-year-old is impressed for the club's reserve team Saint-Estève in the French Elite One Championship and has now been rewarded with a full-time contract. Desaria made 5 appearances for the Dragons' first team between 2016 and 17 before enjoying spells at Lille and Toulouse.
Rochdale have announced the signing of former Wigan youngster Ryan Forshaw for the 2021 season. The halfback came through the ranks at Super League outfit Wigan Warriors, having most recently featured in the under-19 side, and will wear shirt number 29 for the League One side.
North Wales Crusaders have snapped up former Super League and NRL winger Paddy Arvan for the 21 season. After breaking into the senior team at the New Zealand Warriors, Arvan made the journey to Super League with Bradford Bulls, playing 1 season in Yorkshire. The 33-year-old then switched to he wasn't 33 at the time, switched to Widnes, where he played the vast majority of his 123 appearances at the top level, scoring 95 tries for the Vikings. Arvan also has representative honours, earning caps for Samoa, and has most recently been on the books at French club Villegail
Aragon. It's Aragon.
Yeah.
Workington Town head coach, which I think is Chris Thorman, has signed a new deal with the club, which will extend his stay until the end of 2024. Yeah, Chris Thorman. Thorman has signed a 3-year deal.
I need to do a bit more proofreading. This one's from the Rugby League website.
There you go. Yeah, what they like, Mark. What they like. Thorman has signed a 3-year deal. Signed a 3-year deal in 2019, but has lost a year implementing his plans due to the cancellation of the Betfred League one season amid the pandemic. This means that Thorman will stay at the club for another 4 seasons.
It's quite a bit of longevity there for a position in that division in League One.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't quite know how he's doing, to be quite honest. But I always thought Thorman was a smart guy, so I'm hoping he's going to turn into a decent coach.
Yep, there's you want to get your your NARL shirts. Well, there's some players being announced that you might be getting on your back of your jersey, David.
His name is too long.
Eddie Pettibone has become the first high-profile signing for the newly formed North American Rugby League. The 33-year-old prop has joined the Brooklyn Kings on a 2-year deal after most recently playing for Villeneuve in the French Elite One Championship. See, I can do some French names.
You can.
Pettibone has played in 2 World Cups for the USA and has also represented Samoa on the international stage.
Yeah, it cost a lot, that shirt, with Eddie Pettibone on the back. New York Rugby League have announced the signing of USA international Joe Eichner on a 12-month deal. The utility forward has most recently been playing for Australia side Northern Pride in the Intrust Super Cup, having made his debut for the club in August 2019. Eichner, 29, has made 14 appearances for the US national team, appearing as part of the Hawks 2017 World Cup squad.
And finally, and I saved this one to last because I thought we might have got some views in on it because it's a potentially controversial topic, but the Rugby Football League Board have awarded Toulouse a 24-0 victory after London Broncos advised this week they would not be prepared to travel for France for their scheduled fixture on April the 17th, which totally took out the Championship game of the week, by the way. The Broncos this week advised they would not be prepared to travel for France for the game, and the RFL say they will be referred to the RFL Compliance Department for off-field misconduct for failing to fulfil a fixture. In March, the RFL board ruled that the game should go ahead as scheduled despite the change in UK government quarantine restrictions affecting France because the Broncos are a full-time club. Toulouse are now deemed to have played 2 matches this season and London 1. The clubs are required to have played 70% of their scheduled fixtures to be eligible for the top 6 playoffs come the end of the season. The Broncos statement about the refusal to travel said, "The club has taken the difficult decision of not making a trip to France for the game on the 17th of April on the basis that we feel we are not being treated the same as other clubs in the Championship who are not required to travel to France in the current climate. The club did offer to reverse the fixture with Toulouse, which would have resulted in us giving up the gate receipts from the home game in August."
It's a really interesting one, this one, isn't it, Mark? I mean, I don't know what the communication has been like between the RFL and the clubs in the run-up to the decision not to do it, and what sort of assurances can or were offered. I also have to admit, I don't know what the status of the bubble is in London, and therefore what reasons they've actually given for deciding that it was too risky to go.
Well, it seems that they haven't said it's too risky to go. They've said other people don't have to go, so we shouldn't have to go. They basically said part-time players should be expected to travel to France because, hey, they'd have notice they can book holidays with their employer. Basically was their rationale around it. And I sort of thought the RFL had come out of a pretty clear stance on this situation around full-time clubs behave like they are elite sports clubs and part-time clubs behave like they are part-time sporting clubs. And this was the compromise that was put into place in that division. And it feels like early March, when that sort of was all announced, was long enough ago for the Broncos to have tried, and they would have had this on their radar for coming up since the fixtures. So if they've not been working appropriately behind the scenes to get that changed, which doesn't seem like an unreasonable suggestion to have done the swap, but hey, if they were wanting to do the swap, I'd be talking about sharing, Toulouse's costs or something else, something more, because it just seems like they've made a decision on their own, which isn't based on safety concerns or anything like that, from the statement that they released and the points they made within that statement. The extended statement had David Hughes' comments on the situation, which was basically, it's not fair, rather than it's unsafe. So yeah, I sort of think it had all been it had been agreed, it had been set out, and the Broncos have gone against it. So I think it's a reasonable decision to award them 24-0 victory to Toulouse. Now, if London want to get out of any more charges on this, they need to come up with a more rounded explanation for their decision when they go in front of the RFL board, I think.
Interesting. It's an interesting one. I wonder whether other teams are going to have whether this story's got more legs in it yet, Mark, and we'll see the next time somebody else is being asked to travel to Toulouse.
Well, there aren't any other full-time clubs in the Championship, are there now?
No, there aren't, are there?
This is the thing I'm trying to work out, because Toulouse and London, I think, are the only full-time clubs now. Widnes definitely aren't full-time anymore. I don't think Featherstone have taken the step of being full-time, even though they probably operate closer to that than other clubs. Although, let's face it, they act like amateur unprofessionals. So, and York aren't full-time. They have some full-time staff members, but no full-time players. So, I don't think there's any other full-time clubs.
Nobody else is going to be in that position then.
So I do get London's kind of like feeling like they're out on their own in that regard. The problem here is the situation that we persist with, where we have part-time clubs and full-time clubs.
Yeah.
And we only have this so that we can have some sort of semblance of promotion and relegation, and so that 12 clubs can get a bit more money than the other 2 or 3 full-time professional clubs each year. It's a get your heads together and sort out a proper professional league with only full-time clubs argument that circles back round all the time for me on this one. But if London want to be full-time, they have to act like an elite sports club, and at the moment they don't have a ground to play at, and they've pulled out of a fixture 10 days before it was due to take place.
It's not a good look, as they say.
And I think in terms of how this affects the Championship, it's massive. Toulouse, this would have been Toulouse's, one of Toulouse's tougher home games.
Yeah.
At this stage of the season, and they get a walkover win, which means that their win percent is going to really be boosted by that, because they won't have to play the other home games because other people aren't expected to travel until international travel restrictions are lifted. So, yeah, it's really big. Toulouse now are in the box seat for finishing in the top 2.
They are, aren't they? Yeah.
Even if they weren't already. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Well, thanks everyone who got their news views in. Look out for the link to the Google form for the news views to get in your fan views over the next week's news. That'll be really good. I'll try and pop some links out along the way, and there'll always be a link embedded in the episode blog post on superleaguepod.com. Shout out to BBC Sport Rugby League page, Total RL, Love Rugby League, and rugby-league.com for providing all the stories that we just comment on, basically. Those guys are the reporters, and we just comment on the stories that they report on. So, thanks to those guys again for all their hard work. Please make sure you visit their websites, give them lots of clicks and all of that. And we're now going to move from the news into the Challenge Cup match reviews. It's Challenge Cup match reviews time then, and it was round 3 of the Challenge Cup. And David, why don't you run us through the first game, the most exciting game?
The most exciting game by some distance. So this was Hunkingston Rovers versus Castleford. It finished eventually in the middle of the night, 32-33 for Castleford. It was 22-6 at half time. Robert Hicks still hirsute, possibly not this weekend if he's been to the Barbers. Was the referee for the winners? Paul McShane. Can we do away now with stat line of the week, performance of the week and probably try of the week, Mark?
Do you know, I wasn't expecting to get any stats for the Challenge Cup games because we normally don't.